All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking one of the absolutely most fascinating and intensely debated moments in modern manga and anime history. We're diving straight into the climax of the Thousand-Year Blood War in Bleach. For years, fans have been dissecting this final, earth-shattering clash between Ichigo Kurosaki and the omnipotent Quincy Emperor Yhwach. Because it's not just a cool fight. It's a finale completely wrapped in deep lore, complex visual metaphors, and, as we're going to see a bit later, some profound literary significance. We are going to break down exactly what happened, mechanics, lore, the whole shebang, and then elevate it to understand why this moment actually matters.
Right off the bat, we are faced with the ultimate paradox of this entire story's climax. Think about it for a second. Why on earth did a godlike villain lose to a basic sword? Yhwach literally possesses the Almighty, the power to not just see, but actively alter every single possible future. And yet, he is ultimately struck down by what looks like Ichigo's original stripped-down giant meat cleaver Shikai. After hundreds of chapters of insane power-ups, new forms, and wild weapon evolutions, Argero delivers the final blow with a weapon that looks like it belongs all the way back in Chapter 1. It's crazy, right? To understand why, we really need to look at how we even got there. If you trace Ichigo's power scaling over the series, it reveals a journey of just insane complexity. I mean, he goes from his basic Shinigami Shikai with that standard golden-blue crescent wave to the black Getsuga drawing heavily on his inner hollow. Then we hit the Getsuga Jujisho, this massive cross-shaped blast born from his dual Shikai that balances his Quincy and hollow sides. And finally, we reach the true Bankai Getsuga. This is a fusion of his entire heritage, so ridiculously powerful it can physically bifurcate a god. It's the ultimate anime trope, right? Constant, escalating accumulation of power, and that is exactly what makes the simplicity of his final strike so incredibly baffling at first glance.
So to solve this mystery, we actually have to revisit the Phoenix Palace. This is crucial. Here, the sword god Oetsu Nimaya doesn't just reforge a broken weapon. He forces Ichigo to undergo a profound purification of his own soul. Ichigo finally completely accepts his three-part lineage, Soul Reaper, Hollow, and Quincy. And this acceptance is what births his dual Zangetsu. The long black blade perfectly represents his core Soul Reaper power completely intertwined with his hollow instincts, while that shorter blade represents his Quincy heritage. He's no longer fighting his own inner demons, he is completely balanced.
But this newfound balance isn't just a static one-and-done power-up. It actually creates a literal step-by-step ritual to unlock his true Bankai. First, Ichigo has to physically insert the Quincy short blade right into the hollowed section of the long blade. Second, he fuses that Quincy power of protection with the hollow instinct to fight. And third, this fusion erupts into a massive black and white greatsword. Now, what you absolutely need to notice here is the chain. Unlike his old Bankai, this true Bankai features a thick, heavy chain seamlessly linking the hilt to the tip. It forms a perfect closed loop. This signifies absolute completeness and an infinite, unbroken circulation of all his combined powers.
Okay, so what exactly happened when Yhwach seemingly broke this ultimate perfect weapon? Well, this brings us to the brilliantly crafted sheath theory, which completely cracks open the true mechanics of his final sword. You see, the weapon is actually made of two totally distinct parts. The white outer shell is this organic bone-like armor representing his combined hollow and Quincy powers. But the black inner blade, that is the core. That's his pure Soul Reaper power. The sheath theory basically proposes that the white shell isn't the blade itself, it's merely a scabbard. It's just armor. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is, when Yhwach cracked the sword, it didn't magically revert to some weaker basic state. It literally just shed its outer armor, revealing the true untouchable blade waiting inside.
And the best part? We don't even have to just guess about this. It is validated directly by the creator himself. Over in his official fan club, Tite Kubo explicitly stated, "What we saw after Yhwach broke Ichigo's Bankai was actually the true Zangetsu, the actual blade, once its shell or scabbard was shattered." Remember, Yhwach had literally just absorbed Ichigo's Quincy and hollow powers moments before this clash. Those white parts on the sword? They were just fragile, hollowed-out remnants of stolen power. When Yhwach crushed them, he simply broke the sheath, nothing more.
Putting this all into a chronological timeline shows just how masterfully this trap was actually set. It's like a giant puzzle coming together. Way back in chapter 672, Yhwach has this intense nightmare of Ichigo killing him with the original basic-looking Zangetsu. Fast forward to chapter 684, and Yhwach uses his godlike power to reach into the future and break the true Bankai. But then, Tsukishima and Orihime team up to literally reject reality and restore the blade. This perfectly, flawlessly sets up the final strike.
Yawa goes for the exact same trick. He reaches out to crush the Bankai again. But this time, he only shatters that white sheath. In doing so, he triggers the exact conditions for his own demise, perfectly revealing the very blade from his nightmare.
This brilliantly illustrates the ultimate irony of the villain's defeat. It was a fatal blind spot in the Almighty, because Yawach's omniscient powers actually transfer over to his second-in-command, Jugrim Hashwalt, while he sleeps. Yawat woke up from that vision in Chapter 672 and completely laughed it off. His supreme hubris caused him to dismiss a genuine, literal prophecy of his own death as just some idle, meaningless nightmare. He saw Ichigo wearing his old Soul Society outfit, wielding the old meat cleaver, and essentially thought, no way, that's impossible. I've already forced him to evolve way past that. His own massive ego completely blinded him to the truth.
Which brings us to Jugrim Hashwalt's super fascinating role in all of this. There are two deeply compelling, totally different theories here. The first is a loyal warning, the idea that Hashwalt, possessing the Almighty at night, neutrally and dutifully shared this genuine vision of the future with his emperor, but Yevok's own overwhelming arrogance caused him to misinterpret it. The second theory is a calculated betrayal, that Hashwalt, desperately seeking to avenge his betrayed friend Basby, intentionally disguised this fatal prophecy as a mere dream. He knew Yevok's massive ego would absolutely never take an image of a reverted, weaker-looking Ichigo seriously. Whether it was loyalty ruined by hubris or a completely brilliant inside job, fate and ego intertwined just perfectly.
So, we've totally nailed down the literal mechanics and the in-universe lore. But let's take a step back and transition from mechanics to meaning. Why? Why strip away Ichigo's incredibly complex powers at the very climax of the entire story? Why didn't Kubo just let him use a massive, flashy energy blast to finish the job? Well, to really understand this, we need to step outside of the anime world for a minute and into the realm of academic literary analysis.
Let's contrast two very, very different types of heroes. Traditionally, throughout history, we have the mythic hero. Think of figures like Odysseus or Gilgamesh. They are adults, they are basically predestined for absolute greatness from birth, they represent complete flawlessness, and they completely dominate pre-20th century mythology. But in modern storytelling, we have a much newer, much more relatable archetype, the epic child hero. They are youthful, they are heavily burdened by the sins of the past, they represent a blank slate, and they are distinctly a product of post-World War II modernism. You see, storytelling evolved dramatically in the 20th century, and the type of heroes we fundamentally needed to see evolved too.
Let's properly define this concept, because it's absolutely crucial. According to the academic research of Jennifer M. Kane, the epic child hero is a heroic archetype born in times of intense uncertainty. They present themselves as a blank slate, a tabula rasa. They bear the entire hope of the future on their shoulders, but they succeed strictly because of their youth. Unlike the traditional adult hero whose power comes from maturity and worldly mastery, the epic child hero is qualified to save the world precisely because they are not a part of the old, corrupted adult systems. And when you look at it through this lens, Ichigo Kurosaki fits this literary archetype flawlessly.
To really get this, let's ground it in some real-world historical context. This archetype didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It emerged from the collective unconscious after the absolute horrors of 2 global wars and massive economic collapse. Humanity as a whole suffered a profound loss of faith in traditional Superman leaders, the adults who had supposedly steered the world, but actually drove it right into devastation. The epic child hero totally embodies that postmodern anxiety. And honestly, the most tragic element of this whole archetype? The hero's childhood itself is the sacrifice for their cause. They have to accomplish their epic task before they officially reach adulthood, literally sacrificing their own innocence just to fix the broken world left to them by their predecessors.
Now let's bring it all home and tie everything together into the ultimate closed loop. By completely shedding that complex hollow and Quincy sheath, the literal armor built up by a 1,000-year war that predates his own birth, Ichigo returns to his fundamental, pure roots. He discards all the ornate, convoluted powers born from the trauma of the past just to use the simple, original blade that he initially manifested for one reason: to protect his family. Standing against Yawak, who is the ultimate ancient, tyrannical adult figure obsessively trying to control the future, Ichigo stands victorious precisely as the ultimate epic child hero. He is simple, he is pure, and he is completely unburdened by the convoluted past. All of this leaves us with a final, really lingering thought to chew on. Is true power actually found in the constant accumulation of strength and complexity, or is it found in returning to exactly who we were meant to be all along? Bleach's finale isn't just a breakdown of cool magic mechanics. It's a profound statement that sometimes, completely shedding our complex armor and returning to our purest, most fundamental selves is literally the only way to conquer the impossible. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this changes how you view this epic conclusion. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.